Hello and welcome to a new RE7 talk in 2025. Today with our guest Neil Collard from GYDA, Grow Your Digital Agency, where I'm also a member of. He is an AI expert. So today is all about AI. We will speak about the AI revolution, what it means for your business. Welcome, Neil.
Oh, thank you, Sebastian, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts on this subject, which, as you know very well, is both a passion and, fortunately, a vocation of mine as well. So it's great to be here and share some thinking with you.
Awesome. Before we dive in, tell us a bit more about yourself and how did you get into this AI thing?
Okay. I think my background, is important for context for my views and opinions and the activity I do. So I think it's worth dwelling on that briefly. So I am, like yourself, I'm a digital agency person. So I have a scary number of years, 27 years, no less, of working within that digital agency space. So my career stems back to 98. The first job I ever worked on was Land Rover's first ever website. So large, multi-billion global business, didn't even have a website. That's how far.
Wow.
So yeah, long time. Now, what's interesting about that is, of course, internet in many ways has been the most transformative technology in the last 50 years or so, and saw the impact of business and indeed how people adopted that back in 2000, dot-com boom, etc. And I see the same patterns now with AI. So from those humble beginnings back in 98, I then went through various digital agencies here in the UK, working with various organisations. 2012, I was working for a business in Bristol, over in west of England. Promoted up to MD of that business, and I grew that up to about 100 people or so, called Great State. Where AI comes in is, it was about 2019, it was pre-COVID, looking at the value that we create at Great State is largely about surfacing data that clients have and packaging that up in such a way that is interesting and useful for consumers to create some kind of combined value around that. And I was looking then at the data, and also, machine learning, as we called AI back there, which is large data sets and algorithms around all the generative data today, and thinking this is where the future is. Yeah. So I was trying to position Great State to be this AI and data-driven agency, and going forward, and got some real traction internally with people within the business looking at some of the tools that are out there and how we could use that. Bearing in mind, of course, the tools are quite primitive, GPT-2, right? And as I say, this is largely large data. Anyway, then COVID hit, and trying to do cultural change within a 100-person agency, when everyone's trying to stay alive was somewhat challenging. So I stepped back from that business, and then started to focus on, I went back to school, I learned Python, I learned data science, looked more at that. And then, of course, GPT 3.5 came out, and suddenly the world was very different. But given my background of understanding, running organizations of, a digital agency in that case, and the impact that AI can have on those businesses, for me was really interesting. And so I spent my time now, I work with CEOs and founders of digital agencies, helping them run a business, grow your digital agency, GYDA. But also I spend a lot of time talking about actually the impact that AI can have on those organizations and how that can change. So, in terms of context and background, my specialism is AI in a digital agency, but obviously many of the functions that you see within a digital agency are also true for any organization on this planet, given the scale that AI can do to help some of those processes. So that's a long background, isn't it? But that's very much where I come from.
That's totally fine. That's totally fine. I mean, I didn't know that you were part of the Range Rover website at that point. That is really interesting, and I think also fascinating for such a big company to build a website like this. And regarding the AI, just to understand, so how was your reaction? You told me in 2019 you started to get with large data. I guess it was marketing related. I think it was analytics data in order to get more sales, or what was the reason why you wanted to look into it?
I think I have a geeky side to myself, right? And I think many people within Great State, the business that I was running, were very similar in that regard as well. So what we did was we did a whole consultancy piece where we got an external consultant in to look at the business and go, where's the impact of more data and better AI likely to be across this business? And what we concluded was everywhere. right?
Yeah.
So from if you think about the chronological flow that a project might follow within an agency, you start with the insight and with the strategy in terms of what can we learn about our consumers, about our competition, about brand, about marketplace, etc. And then you turn that into a solution in some form, and you might have UX within there. So how can you test UX? How can you analyze competitor websites, etc. And then you start to kind of design and create content for these. The design processes, the physical design, the graphic design, but also you look at content generation, and then you look at the HTML, the front end, and then you look at the back end and the dev, and pulling that up, and then you look at reporting after that. And from across all of that, there were opportunities. So what we did was we pulled together a working team with a representative from each element of the agency to go like, right, what can we do? What can we do within the world of AI? Now, I'm not going to lie, okay. This was not universally embraced by everyone within the business. Okay.
Of course.
And there was either like, Neil's on one again, let's just entertain him, and he'll come up with something else he gets interested in. But we pushed it through, okay, and we started to have some of these conversations. There was a singular moment that I still remember to this day, and I must credit it with the copywriter that we had in that business, a guy called Bob. Bob is a brilliant copywriter. Bob spent a lot of his time writing content, large, long-form content. Bob was not keen on the idea of AI taking his job. I think he did the classic hand to chest and went, my craft. I spent 20 years developing my craft, and a machine cannot do my craft. And I see this reaction a lot since then. So he wasn't really keen on the idea, but I forced him, and I'm his boss. So he did as he's told. And then after a couple of weeks, he came back and he said, Neil, it's amazing. I've looked into this AI, and it's just brilliant because it automates all the tedious stuff and allows me to focus on the interesting stuff and being creative. And I was like, oh my God, Bob, that's exactly where I'm coming from. And of course, he worded it in an elegant way with his words because he's a copywriter. And that was absolutely the breakthrough. It's like it automates the tedious and enables us to kind of focus on what's interesting. And then we, as I say, we started to see breakthroughs through other bits of the business as well in terms of how that could be. Yeah, and then COVID happened, and and the world changed dramatically. But it's important to understand, and as we have this conversation, I'm sure I shared this with you before in our conversations. Automate the tedious. There's so much in our daily lives that is just time-consuming and of low value. Let's just make all that stuff go away, and then we can kind of do the amazing things that actually we aspire to do.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I mean, for me personally, I remember this effect when this ChatGPT came out. Everybody was so excited, and I mean, there were so many use cases that you didn't think of, and I think you also saw this at GYDA with all the agencies when this ChatGPT came out. I mean, there were lots of opportunities, but on the other side, also like fears like, will AI replace me and so on. And I guess you have been asked this so many times so far. How do you see it? And you just stated your point of view, how you see things, to focus mainly on the things that, I mean, that are important, that you think you can, and all the tedious thing you can let the AI manage.
Yeah, I mean, there's rich ground in terms of impact of AI in organizations. So if you think that I would go into an organization and say, right, here's the opportunity, and here's the change. Normally the reason I'm engaged by an organization is through fear. So normally the conversation is, with the CEO over, I'm concerned about the impact of AI and what that might do to my business. Very rarely am I engaged with the line, I'm really excited about the opportunity and how we can be a better business and deliver more value to our clients, right? I think that's wrong. I think AI, we need to view AI as an opportunity for our businesses to do better work for our customers and for our clients. Okay, because by doing so, we have a positive mindset and we embrace the change and we move forward. If we take a defensive mindset, all we're doing is almost kind of denying the impact and trying to defend against the impact. And the impact is inevitable. We were talking earlier about, code generated by AI, and the impact, is it true, secure enough under certain circumstances? And the answer might well be today, no. But you know what? The answer tomorrow will be yes. It's inevitable that the way that those changes, we can't affect that. We can't play that game. We are responding to that circumstance. And so what we need to do is we need to be ambitious about where this technology can take our businesses and how to embrace and how do we move forward in that journey. So we can't make these decisions through fear. We make them through ambition and opportunism and optimistic about what that could look like.
So now when we turn our view on the business itself, I mean, lots of businesses are affected already and will be affected in the future. So how would you, or what would you tell to a business owner of a business, how to adapt AI, how to manage with AI? How would you tell like a business owner that is already 20 or 30 years in business? Let's say, I don't know, I have always my example of the sports nutrition shop, and he's selling a lot online and so on. So how would you tell like a business owner how to adapt to AI and what to do also in order with his employees? Because the employees, they might be not so interested maybe, or might be a bit more afraid in order to use it.
Yeah, I mean, the example you said, those words at the end, afraid, not enthusiastic, don't want to change things.
Yeah.
It's the same things kind of crop up all the time. How to address this? We've developed what we call an AI maturity model. It's not very complicated. It's quite simple. Right? There are 3 steps. Number 1 is alignment. Number 2 is adoption. And number 3 is ambition. So let's start at the beginning. Alignment. Alignment is about the leaders of that organization waking up and going, AI is going to change things around here. We are going to embrace the opportunity rather than resist the opportunity. And we are going to take active steps to make the world better around here. And it's a decision, okay? And it's not about minimizing the impact on my business or defending my business. It's not about putting policies out there about security and not letting our staff use ChatGPT or any of that sort of stuff. It's about saying, this is going to transform our business, and we are going to take positive steps to create a better business in the future. It's almost like, that commitment. That's the first step. That's the alignment. Get everyone aligned to say, this is going to change stuff around here, and we are going to be on the front foot as opposed to defending against it.
So like open address it. As a business owner, I would come there, open address the thing, what is coming, and say, hey, let's understand it first. What you said, let's get aligned to it, understand what it does, and so on, and have an open discussion. So an open approach to it.
Yeah, and I think the idea of an open discussion with everyone in the business is really important, right? Because there will be people who resist, and we need to hear those views. We need to understand why people don't, will not embrace this, and we need to challenge them, and collectively, if we engage everyone in that conversation to get everyone to go like, all right, I get you thinking, I might not, I might have my craft, and I might like doing things by hand, and I don't really want the machine to be taken over, but I also quite like being paid a salary at the end of the month. So I'm prepared to listen to kind of what you've got to say on the subject. So engage everyone, be aligned, say this is the impact it's going to have, or the impact we think it's going to have, and then we're going to move forward. So that's step 1. That's alignment of the maturity model. Step 2 is adoption. So this is when we start to use things, and this is when we start to play things. And the ambition behind adoption is that at the end of that process, this business feels different, right? We do things differently around here. It must feel different. If it doesn't feel different, we failed in this regard. So during adoption, what we normally do is we break the business down into certain functions. So we might have the finance function, we might have client service or the design function. And then each of those functions, the ambition is that we're trying to change the mindset of people within those functions about AI. Okay, we are trying to create behavior change of those individuals. We want to change their mindset. We want them to embrace AI. We want them to have the skills to deploy it, and we want to give them the opportunity to deploy it. We use what's called the COM-B behavioral change model, COM-B for behavior. C stands for capability, O stands for opportunity, M stands for motivation. Okay, so capability, we need to give people the skills to use these technologies. Opportunity, we need to give people opportunities to deploy these, and they need to be motivated. Motivation is the most important of those 3, because if we can motivate people to say like, I'm going to deploy this technology, I'm going to do it, I want to do it, then the rest fall into line. Because the capability, this is the most powerful technology we've ever known as humanity, and yet it's the easiest technology to use. You need no skills other than the ability to talk. And most people possess that capability. So we can get these tools to do anything. So motivation, opportunity, capability. Motivation is, addressing people's fears. It's my craft. It's going to take my job. AI is not going to take your job. People using AI will take your job. Other organizations who embrace this more quickly, they will take your job. So if you want to defend the job, get better at AI, do your job better. That's fine. And also, as we discover on the journey, AI doesn't replace you. It augments you. Okay, it takes your basic skills and then does all the tedious stuff on your behalf. It gives you superpowers. And if you can get that mentality, then suddenly people are very enthusiastic. And motivation actually comes quite easily once you get over those early steps. Opportunity, let's give people a tedious problem to solve. Yeah, it takes away the tedious, right? So let's give someone tedious. Oh, the emails I'm getting over this. Oh, why aren't a contact report for this meeting? Oh, having to do some research about this. Oh, having to prepare a report. Oh, having to do there are so many tedious tasks that inherently exist within an organization. Well, let's work out collectively how we can deploy, technology, AI, to solve some of those tedious stuff on our behalf. And then when we do that, we save time, and this is all very good, and we move in the right direction as well. So if we think about client service, for example, in a typical digital agency setting, one of the things you want to do with client services, you want to impress the client. You want to give them interesting news, insights. It might be about their website, it might be about the competitors, it might be something else. You could get your account executive in the old-fashioned model to spend Friday morning trawling through not so many websites, coming up with articles that may or may not be interesting, given their understanding of the client's business. Put that in an email, send over some links to a client. Hey, or else we could automate that process, and we could get AI to go and do that. We could give that the deep understanding about the client's business, along with the vast knowledge that exists in the internet, to come up with 3 interesting things that we might want to tell our clients on a Friday afternoon, to give them insight. It's changed from being a tedious task to a high value, low effort task. And the world just got a bit better. Got a bit better for you, for your account exec, and also for the client as well. So these are the tedious tasks that we start. And then we do the better, right? Which is the magic. What would magic look like in this situation? How to take things, if you had all the time in the world, and you could deploy your skills, your intellect, what would you do for your clients? What would you do to improve the business? And we think about what those challenges might be, and then we work out how to use AI to develop some of those. So this is the adoption. This is like solving problems within the business, giving people the motivation and the capability. And when we talk about capability, there's nothing clever here, right? Most of the work I do is ChatGPT. Okay, I know there are other models out there, but if I'm honest, they tend to trend quite close to each other over the long term. Okay. Most people use or start with ChatGPT, so it's got the lowest resistance to adoption. So we just use ChatGPT. There's a million resources out there about how to write better prompts about ChatGPT. So we just teach people how to write decent prompts with ChatGPT. Just keep it really simple at the basic level, and you get these wow moments. We get them to share prompts and share insights along the way as well. During the later stages of the adoption program, we start to unlock tools like Zapier, so we can start to take data out of one system and put it to another, and put a little bit of Gen AI on the top as well, and automate many processes as well. I'm not, as much as I've done a little bit of Python, I'm not a coder, that's Sebastian. And yet some of these no-code processes can actually, anyone can kind of access these and do these as well. So as we go through, if we think about the AI maturity, everyone's aligned. We're going to change things. With adoption, we can start to do things differently within the business. We can be more efficient, and the team can start to understand the benefits about what we're doing and where we're taking those things as well. And that becomes really interesting. And then you create that momentum. Yeah, you change the mindset of individuals, you do the behavioral changing, and then they start to find their own problems to solve, and they give their own solutions.
Then you have the stage of motivation, that they are motivated in order to use it. Just to describe you how it was in our agencies, this adopting period. So first we did this aligned, like we spoke openly about it, and then this adoption came. I stumbled over a tool was called Poe. Poe is nothing else that gives you access to ChatGPT, but also to other AI agents like what's out there, Llama and Sona and so on. So you could use several AIs there and just to test it out. So I just gave them access in order to say, hey, let's test it out. I showed them a bit what you can do about it, and I told each department, hey, just play with it around, and in 1 week we will have a discussion about it, and you let me know what are your insights, what did you do, and so on. So that was the first step in order to make them try things out. After that, I gave them something on the hand, what you said, like prompts for ChatGPT. That was then the next phase where I said, hey, here you have specific prompts, try them out, and in 1-2 weeks, we will have another discussion in order to discuss things, in order to see what insights there are. And then what you said then with tedious tasks. For example, reporting is for us something which is not a favorite work of our employees. So we were thinking, how can we make this easier? And what we figured out, even if you make just a screenshot from Meta, the analytics and so on, or from the data, ChatGPT writes you an awesome report based on the numbers. And it gives you from a third person point of view what was done there, which is also nice to explain it to a client from a different point of view. What was done there, what was the reason, which campaign ran better, and so on. So we adapted. The first thing was regarding reporting. And then the first people were really motivated. They were like, oh, thanks God, that is not my favorite job. And now AI can help. Then regarding content, we figured out for content, maybe it's not as good as we wanted to have it with the writing, but it can help us to structure the article that we want to have to write. So that was the next thing that we were doing. So this, I think, is this adapting period that you just mentioned.
Yeah, it's almost, you defined it exactly, because at the end of the adoption period, you want behaviors to change. You want to be doing new things. However, if we talk about the whole journey, we're only halfway, right? Because actually, what we now have is we have the same business delivering the same products and services, using new tools and doing so more efficiently and to a higher standard as well. Your question at the beginning was, I'm a sports nutrition business, right? How does this affect my business? This is the ambition stage. This is the last stage. This is the challenging stage, shall we say. This is where you get most shouting around the board table. Okay, and that's good. I like shouting around the board table. I like passion and excitement about what things do. At the ambition stage, what we're doing is we're looking at what the business is going to look like in the future, in 2 or 3 years' time. And to do that, the business does not look like it does today, but with some new tools and some different processes. We have to think broader than that, and we have to go like, AI has the capacity to change significant things. So it's not just how people behave within our business, it's how our clients talk to our business, how our customers, and it's also therefore our customers or our clients' worlds and the environment that they sit in as well. They can do a lot of the stuff that we do, right? They can just use AI in the same way we can. So the briefs will change from an agency's clients to us, and also their world will change as well. So how do we do ambition? What we do around ambition is we try and reach into the very core of our organizations in terms of what is it that we do? What's the value that we give to our clients? So sports nutrition business, I don't know much about sports nutrition, but I'm assuming, the value proposition there is, we help people fulfill their athletic potential. So now we just happen to do that by giving, sports nutrition equipment. That's kind of what we do at the moment. And we put powders in bottles and we send it out to people and tell them how much to take and do all that sort of stuff. But that's just the way we do things today. Right. But actually, if our purpose is to help people fulfill their athletic potential, we may do different things in the future, right? And it may well be, that we have, we have tailored, personalized nutrition plans, on a 1-by-1 basis using an individual's DNA and looking at their, whatever it might be. All sorts of things around that.
Or like a nutritionist, like you can say on the website, hey, check out our nutritionist, which is like an AI bot. And then you say, hey, I'm looking for a supplement in order to be more, I can run longer, for example. I want to have longer pace. So what would you recommend? And then it will ask you several things. And based on this, it gives you a recommendation, something really personalized, but to have probably then a better buying experience.
But the key thing there is it's a new product or service, but it's core to why you exist. Now, most digital agencies exist with the singular purpose of providing better customers to their clients, right? So if you are running a digital business and you're thinking about the ambition piece about what AI means for my business, you start with, we provide better customers. We happen to do SEO, paid advertising, social, website, whatever it might be. But actually, those services are irrelevant. What we do is better customers. So during the ambition stage of the AI maturity, we go, in a future world dominated by generative AI, how do we provide better customers to our clients? And that's the starting point. And then from there, you look through the products and services that you sell currently, and you go, SEO, yeah, we do more of that, we do that. Oh, we won't do that anymore. We do this, we do this. New services that we might introduce into our product offering. This. All true to your purpose, better customers, but actually in a world of AI. And so this is the ambition piece. Again, this is what our business is going to look like in the future. when our market is dominated by AI. And here's what our opportunity is. And then what you do is you go like, well, how do I build the capability to develop these new offers and services? I've got a team embrace AI. They are skilled at AI. They are really solving problems with that, and they're really enthusiastic about that. Now we give them different problems to solve, new problems that we've not solved before, new products and services to sell. And that's the ambition piece. And that's the last bit of the AI maturity. You set businesses off on that trajectory to go and be future-proof in this exciting new world where we move forward. So.
Yeah, I mean, sounds really fascinating, the AI maturity model. So just to summarize it, it's aligned, adapting, and then adaptation, and then ambition. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, the interesting thing is what stops this. Why can businesses not do themselves? And there's a saying which I've deployed many years when I looked at digital transformation, in terms of how internet can affect your business and why I'm using it. And it's this line: it is sacrifice the sacrosanct. Every business has something that is sacrosanct to them. It's why they exist. It's the thing they do. It's Kodak and the film, and it's blockbusters, and we know this. But every business has something that's sacrosanct like this. The sports business, what's sacrosanct to us is the powder, is the nutrition products that we make. That's why we exist. So if you're going to affect that, I'm going to make irrational, emotional decisions about holding on to that, even if you provide me all the evidence in the world that there's not a future in that. So when you're going through particularly the ambition stage, think about the saying, sacrifice the sacrosanct. What is sacrosanct in your business that causes you to make emotional and irrational and therefore incorrect decisions around the future of your business? I, as an external consultant, then focus on that first and say, okay, well, let's look at your business without that. We'll remove that, and then we'll go from there. And only by removing that do I find that founders and CEOs can think clearly about what the opportunity is as we move forward as well. It's scary, right? Because most people start businesses to do things they are deeply knowledgeable about or deeply passionate about. And to think that changes and evolves, that's exciting as an opportunity, but it's also evolves or erodes somewhat, some of the value that we create. So.
Yeah, and it depends on the business leaders. I mean, some are afraid of change. So, and every business leader is in their bubble, is in their business. So they don't have this view that you might bring them into the business in order to show them some things, and also to make it more like structured approach in order to get into AI.
Well, I think you raise a really interesting and terribly important point there, which is about resistance to change and who is resistant to change and why people are resistant to change.
Yeah,
most of us exist in a world where we can see future benefit from our clients, from our business, and we know that we're just trying to make a better business here, right? Many people in organizations do not act with the best interest of the organization at their core. They act with the best interest of themselves at their core. Yeah. So people want bonuses. They want to earn more money. They're more interested in earning more money than the business being more profitable. And therefore they tend to be selfish, and their motivations are often not aligned with the business. So often when you go into organizations, you find people who pay lip service. Yeah, AI, it's really good. We're all on board. Yeah. And then they go back to the office and they do nothing because they, as you say, they fear change. They can't be bothered. And also, when you look at senior management tend to reach a point of comfort in an organization. Okay, they are paid well, they are respected, and they're happy with the status quo. So to think that they might actively embrace something that would change the status quo and cause their role to change and their seniority to change for a technology that the youngsters seem to be really good at adopting, but I can't quite get my head around, naturally they're going to resist that. Okay, it's human nature, and we shouldn't be too upset about that. It's just the way of the world. There are certain warning signs I always see, and these are red flags to me when I deal with organizations. There are certain warning signs about this. Okay, so one of the ones I see is privacy and data. Okay, it's almost like it's like my red flag I can throw out there. I'm going to stop the whole process. You get somebody say, yeah, but what about privacy? What about security? What about data? We can't use these tools because clients and contracts and blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
with all these kind of complex terms. It's a nonsense. It's an absolute nonsense. If you want to solve those problems, you can solve those problems. If you want those to remain as blockers, they will remain as blockers. And when you go into organizations, you can see those who sit there and they go like, yeah, we looked at it, but we've got this policy, so we can't actually do any of this sort of stuff. And it's like, well, change policy. Understand the risk, deeply understand the risk, and then change those sorts of things. Because are you beholden, as a CEO of this organization, do you want to be beholden to people who don't want to change or people who can enable change? It's the latter. So that's a red flag to me. The other thing I hear a lot of is there's one word that really stands out, and it's but, right? And it's really, really good, but. Yeah. And the moment I hear but, oh yeah, we used it. We use it on this, but, and it's almost like people embrace this word, but it's so important to them. It gives them comfort. It's like, oh, nothing's going to change because, but, it's great, but, it's nonsense. When I hear but, I'm like, I know. It's almost like a klaxon goes off and people put a big red light on their head saying, I'm resistant to change. Right. So when you hear the word but, it's like, you've got to challenge that. You've got to kind of go in and say, but what? But it's not as good, like the app example that we were talking about earlier. Oh, it's really good. It's really clever. It made this app, but data and security. It's like, yeah, no, you're quite right. But that's going to change over time. And that's going to improve. And we know it's going to improve. And actually, we can kind of offset some of those risks in the short term as well. So when you're looking to drive change, we've got to think about these people who are subversive kind of resistors to change, and we've got to kind of challenge them, and we've got that's the motivation challenge. We've got to get them to go, no, this is an opportunity for me. Because I'll tell you another thing, right? Senior people within organizations, they've got the most to lose because they have a big salary, they have a nice office, they have keys to the executive toilet, as we say. So they've got a nice position, and so they don't want the world to change. But here's what we found when we work with people. AI augments us as individuals within an organization. And actually, AI, if you think about it, answers questions. Yeah, that's largely what it does. The ability to ask the interesting questions is therefore how you can accelerate your rate of value. Who has the interesting questions? Who knows most about the world? Who knows what's interesting? It's the senior people. So these very people who are often resistant change, they're actually the ones who have the most interesting questions. They're the ones who have the most to gain by using this technology to do all the tedious work. So their advanced experience, knowledge of industry, knowledge of client industry, their expertise has extra value because it enables them to have more interesting and more developed and more strategic and more intellectual conversations with the Gen AI, with the technology that sits underneath that. So often people who resist are the ones who've got the most to gain. I find that a really interesting kind of development. So
yeah, you are totally right. And yes, when you give the example, I was also thinking of some companies that we work together, where these people that are really elaborate and have like really intelligent questions, that they don't work with the AI, and which is like not understandable. And sometimes when you show them, or because I also recognize some, they just don't want to write so much. And when you show them, like, you can even talk to the AI, then they're like, wow, I didn't know about this feature. And then they see like different possibilities, and even some, they think they talk to a human sometimes, until you tell them, hey, no, it's not a human, it's AI. And then they get more interesting.
It's very rare that I would have a one-to-one session with someone who is senior in an organization, because often I get this whole AI thing. I know. Could we just have a chat for an hour? Come into my office and we'll go through things, And it's very rare I'd have that conversation and they wouldn't leave an hour later going like, it's amazing. I did a session once with ex-military people. So this is very senior people within the military who are transitioning to life on Civilian Street. And there's a whole training course that they go through. Very austere. Now, these people are incredibly senior, massively impressive, very, very formal. And I was going through this whole process. And there was one person in particular who was resistant to the whole idea of AI, who is the most straight-laced. The tie was the neatest and the straightest. He was, anyway, demonstrated one thing. And he literally said there, and this is a bit where we need to edit out the swear word maybe. He literally said, me. And the whole because this man swore. It was almost like, you've never sworn in your life. It's like, well, I did once when I was 20. Blown away by what he saw with this. And normally you get people to go on that journey. And once that penny drops, it's like, this technology is so amazing and so powerful. Then we transition to, okay, how do I harness this? How do I harness this personally? How do I harness this for my business as well? So, yeah.
Amazing. I'm just wondering, I mean, you are much closer than me to the AI and to the evolution. And how do you see the future? I mean, how do you see the next 3 to 5 years? I know it's really hard to say this because there seems like daily coming out new things. But how do you see it, like the AI, how it evolves by itself, like open AI and so on? And how do you see the future for the businesses in terms of AI?
Okay. I mean, wow, that's a hard question to answer, because I suspect
I know.
the
Yeah.
gap between us recording this and this podcast being published in, what, a week's time, my data will be out of date. Okay? That's a challenge. Broadly, how do I see things? Unpopular view, I don't think Gen AI has developed that much over the last year or so. I fundamentally do not think. I think the gap between GPT 3.5 to 4, that 6-month gap a couple of years ago, that was significant. But 4 to where we are now, it's sort of tailed off. It hasn't advanced that much, I don't believe. And actually, what we've seen over that time is two things. Firstly, we've seen that level of intellect and insight being able to be delivered at much lower cost, so much less processing power in order to deliver that. I think like Google AI overviews is now SGE as it used to be, cost Google 2 cents for each response that it generated. Hugely expensive in terms of doing that. It's much cheaper now. So we see the same level of capability, I mean, it's a bit better, but we're not setting the world on fire, delivered at much lower cost. That's the first thing. The second thing we're seeing is much more access, much easier access to these tools. So again, if we look at GPT as the most adopted technology, the different access, the ways that you can adopt with that is much more interesting. And if you think about the value of this, at the bottom we've got the electricity, for the data centers, and then we've got all the chips in the data centers, then we've got the models, and then we've got the app where people actually interact with that. GPT are existing at the top, and that's kind of really, I think, where they're looking to kind of create the value around that. And of course, we see these tools being deployed in Copilot and other solutions as well. So actually, where do I look at things going future? Now these tools are so accessible. I see the app layer, the interaction between humans just being advanced, and so it's much easier to use these technologies in far different ways. I don't think the technology is going to change much. That's my first thing. Because as much as we sort of think it's everywhere, a lot of people still don't use this. And there are so many user cases in every single organization when it can be done. It's like we're still on the baby steps about how this is going to impact on our businesses as well, even without the technology advancing. The fact that all exists can always do a lot more. And I think the large language model as it exists at the moment is not going to develop that much over time. But what I do see is, the big investments that you're seeing, the hundreds of billions in data centers and stuff like that. That's almost like the next gen. So I think we're going to see the technology we've got at the moment, continues to be adopted. Great value if you do adopt it, but not. It's already so good. Right? There's so much value to be done. And then what I think we're going to see is, the next generation of models coming along. And the next generation of models aren't going to be evolutionary. I think they're going to be truly transformative. And I think that's what the $500 billion investment is that you see in the States, and all the other investments that you see going on. The $100 billion data centers. That's not about, making these models a little bit better. That's about transformative in the next stage beyond that as well. So that view will be out of date in a week's time. But hey, for me, until about lunchtime, I'm prepared to hold on to it.
Yeah, I mean, you wrapped it out nicely, and I know what you mean with this transformative. That's also what I'm reading, that is an exponential growth, and our brains are not designed to think in exponential growth, like with compounding interest, and it's the same with the intelligence of the AI. We can't grasp how fast it will evolve and transform.
I mean,
so right now we're saying,
we may be at the limit, and we might look back and go like, do you remember when we were really excited about AI? Just turns out it's just a chatbot. Yeah, well, hey, I don't know, I'm kind of with you. I kind of think when you start getting AI, think about how to solve AI. I think it will overtake human intelligence, and then we reach a kind of different world, really. But I think until then, it's just a fantastic tool, But when its intelligence surpasses us and you can solve climate change and political unrest, then these are exciting times. So.
Yes, and as you said, I mean, it's really exciting to be now when this thing comes out. I mean, your children and so on, I remember with the mobile phone and so on, they grew up with this. We had a time where we didn't use mobile phones, and with the AI, it was the same. For us, there was a time without AI where we could solve things. Now you are so dependent on the AI. Which is crazy. I mean, it also shows how fast is the entire development in technology.
Yeah, the naught, and largely 2019, I guess, in my journey, ChatGPT 2 started to where we are now is immense. But actually, you can compress most of that journey into, GPT 3.5 to 4. Well, actually, in almost like a 6-month period there, and the rest is kind of relatively flat. It's exciting times, so.
Yeah. Before we close our podcast, do you have some final words for business owners that, that are confronted now with the AI revolution? What would you give them as an advice?
Well, I mean, obviously contact me, but things to take away from this, you don't do that. I would say, embrace the prompt thing, right? Just, get really good at prompting, right? Because that's all, when people go on this journey, it's like the one sentence prompt to the one page prompt is big. Get ChatGPT to tell you how to write a prompt, right? It's like, oh, turns out ChatGPT is pretty good at writing prompts with ChatGPT or Midjourney or other tools as well. And therefore, it shifts your mindset to going, can you help me write a report, to actually I need to write a report that does this, actually the purpose of the report, and keep elevating your mindset in terms of how that goes, to actually go back to the real problem that you're trying to solve, and elevate the challenge and abstract the challenge as high as you can, and have a long conversation. Sit down with GPT for half an hour or an hour to talk about the real problem that you're solving, and spend the first 15 minutes exploring the problem up and then kind of solving it back down again. That'd be my first advice. I love GPT or these other tools as a thought partner. So when I talk, well, Sebastian, when we talk, I'm a great fan of transcription tools. Put the transcription tools into a chat, put proposals, put other documents into a chat. And what AI can do then, it can remember every interaction between you and the client. And therefore, if you're looking to kind of, help and advise and guide in some way, it's got all that data. And then so I have some very, very long conversations around some clients when I'm looking to kind of do some stuff. And these things I find really, really useful in terms of, because it can just remember everything. So I have almost a client by client basis chat, which is kind of long form.
So it's like an outsourced brain or memory.
It is. I think of it as a thought partner. So if you think about the creative process within an agency, you typically get art director and copywriter, and you bounce ideas off each other. Yeah. You might well have a strategist and a technologist who bounce ideas off each other, and the ability to kind of bounce ideas off another helps us kind of elevate our thinking. So using AI to kind of bounce ideas off. I was thinking of saying this. What about this? What about this? I find that very useful. And my third advice is critical assessment. So ask ChatGPT to critically assess a document, a proposal, whatever it might be. Because weirdly, as humans, if another human gives us feedback, it's like, oh, I like the document, but actually the formatting's a bit off, and on this page is this. How people respond is like, whatever, and we get really upset. But strangely, if a computer says the formatting's out, it's like, oh yeah, it is, and you just amend it. So if you have an important document to send to a client or a customer, just stick it into GPT and say, can you please critically assess this? This is the outcome I'm trying to achieve against that, and it will go through and it will say nice things, and then it will say, think about changing this. And because it comes from a computer, we embrace that more. So, those are my 3 tips, I suppose. Generally, though, pause. If you're running the same business today that you were 2 years ago, and if you think you're going to be running the same business in 2 years' time, I would be concerned, and I would spend time investigating what the opportunity is, because the world has changed and is going to continue to change. And be on the front foot, and your business can be very successful, or it can fail, and you get to decide which of those 2 outcomes you live. That's my main advice.
Nice. That's some nice closing remarks. And if people are now watching this or listening to it on Spotify and want to get in contact with you, how can they contact you?
It's simple, but easiest way is search me up, Neil Collard, on LinkedIn, or just email me, Neil, Neil, at GYDA.co. That's GYDA.co. Email me and we can have a chat. We can talk about your business, have a half-hour chat, and go from there, and then kind of see how we can work together, or you can pick my brains or anything. As I think I'm quite passionate about this, and I spend a lot of time talking to people about this. And so, if you just want to kind of have half an hour, just chewing the fat, I'd love to have the conversation, because I find all those conversations endlessly fascinating.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We also put your contact details down in the show notes, so that when people are interested, they can reach out. Also, feel free to comment on our podcast here on YouTube, or to write us some questions if you have further questions about this. And thank you for having you here, Neil. It was a pleasure. I learned a lot, and I hope everybody, especially the business owners that watched until the end, learned also a lot in order to adapt AI for their business. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. I enjoy talking about this, and obviously always enjoy chatting to you as well. So good luck and take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.